Hi, everybody, and welcome into the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. I'm Matt Yaloff, the show where you get to ask questions live of our guests. And today, that guest is a big guy, the Indians' president of baseball ops, Chris Antonetti, joins us right now live. And I want to thank you so much because you have a lot going on. Game 3 of the ALDS, so thank you for your time on game day.
My pleasure, Matt. Looking forward to it.
Let me ask you about, right off the bat here, when your job is done and you have no control and the players and the coaches do their thing, how difficult is that for you?
Well, it's hard in some respects. You spend so much time trying to prepare and be a resource and help as much as possible to get guys ready and provide any information we can to help them do that. But once we turn it over to them, we're like everybody else. We're watching. But the good thing we can do is reflect back on the preparation and the work that our coaches and players do to prepare as best as possible. But, yeah, like everyone else, there's a lot of anxiety in watching the games unfold.
Yeah, I'm sure. No doubt about that. So a social question here from Noel. What do you do when you watch? Any superstitions?
I'm not overly superstitious, but I'll usually watch with members of our front office, and usually my family, my wife and daughters attend the game. I'm really fortunate that both my daughters and my wife are exceedingly optimistic and are always thinking about the good things that are about to happen in the game, which may not be my natural disposition nor some of those others within our front office, so it's a good balance.
Okay, all right, that's a fair answer. We have a fan question coming up next for you here on the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. Hello to you. Tell us your name and your question.
Hello, Mr. Antonetti. I am Daniel from South Jersey. My question for you today is, with Mike Clevenger, your starter today, what are your expectations for today's outing?
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for the question. Mike's very excited and looking forward to the start. He's had a great second half of the season, has really trended in the right direction, and he feels really confident going into the game today. So we're all excited to see what he'll do come game time.
All right, thank you very much for that question. Moving on to the next one here, I have Robin who wants to know if you've ever seen anyone have more fun on a baseball field than Francisco Lindor.
It's a great question. I'm not sure if I've ever seen anyone have as much fun as Frankie. It's a privilege and a joy to watch him play every day, not only for the extraordinary talent that he has, but the way in which he plays. He always has a smile on his face, and that enthusiasm that he has when he's on the field, he has that same enthusiasm throughout the day in the clubhouse and around the team. And it's been fun getting a chance to work alongside Frankie for the years he's been with us, and we're thrilled to have him as part of our organization.
And do you feel that as players seemingly get younger and better at a younger age, there is more fun in the game that is visible than there was, say, 10, 20 years ago?
I do think that's changed a little bit, and that players are maybe allowed to show their personality more. And I think it's been fun for us to see, and that you take someone like Frankie who shows that same joy on the major league field that you might see when you watch 12-year-olds play on a Little League diamond. And to see that same behavior, those same smiles, that same enthusiasm go from the Little League field to the major league diamond, I think is great for the game.
All right, another fan question. So thanks for joining us here in the chatting cage. Tell us your name and your question.
Hello, this is Eduardo Sevilla from the Dominican Republic. Hi, Chris. I just wanted to know, what would you recommend to a young guy like me trying to find their way into a baseball operations department for one of the major league clubs?
Sure. I think the great news is that there's all sorts of opportunities and avenues to find your way to a major league team and to ascend throughout the ranks. And I think if you look around the game, you'll see that people within front office positions come from all sorts of different places. And I think the common thread for a lot of them now is they start in an entry-level position and just find some way to get their foot in the door and then make the most of that opportunity once you do. So I'd be relentless in reaching out to teams and trying to find that first opportunity in baseball, wherever that might be, and then make the most of that opportunity once you do.
You know, I got to tell you that when I was a kid or a teen, I didn't even think about that. I wanted to play, and you have an idea that
Right.
you can play. But now there's an entire generation of kids who want to be in the front office doing what you do. Do you find that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would encourage people to follow that first passion first and continue to try to play as long as you can. And then at some point, if you reach the end of that road, then maybe think about the opportunity to work in the front office, because there is no replacing the joy of playing the game. But fortunately for many of us, there are other avenues to stay involved in the game and still work closely with it.
All right, we have a question from Jake. Your pitching staff set a record. You had 4 starters with 200 or more Ks this year. How did that happen, and why did it happen?
I think to just look at what happened this year wouldn't really tell the full story. I think you have to look back on years of hard work by each of those players to develop into the pitchers that they are now. And I think the common thread through our entire starting rotation is that work ethic, the relentless desire to continue to find ways to get better and improve. And when you have someone like Corey Kluber, who's won multiple Cy Youngs, approach every offseason thinking about how can I build on the success that I have, how can I come into next year a better pitcher than I was the prior year, that sets a great tone for the rest of the staff, and I think we've had a lot of guys embrace that mindset and mentality.
Yeah, and you certainly have a heck of a staff, my goodness. All right, the EDJ question of the day. What's been the key for your club in winning the division 3 years in a row?
I think there are a lot of things. I think it starts with Terry Francona and his leadership and the culture that he builds within the Major League clubhouse, and the expectation of winning and finding one way to be a run better than that team on any given night. And that constant desire to go out and compete, and then always thinking about how can we continue to improve and be better tomorrow than we are today. And when you have a group of people that are talented and have that mindset, you see players maybe go on and exceed what some of those expectations might be for them, whether that's Corey Kluber, who was an unheralded player at the time we traded for him, or Jose Ramirez, who may have been labeled as a small utility guy that's emerged as one of the offensive forces in baseball. And I think when you have a collection of people that focus that way and are constantly seeking to get better and come together as a team, great things are possible.
All right, another fan is checking in right now. Thanks for joining us inside the chatting cage. Your question, your name first, please, and your question.
Hey, I'm Anthony, and I was wondering who your favorite ball player was, if you had one, growing up.
Hi, Anthony. Thanks for the question. I grew up in Connecticut, southern part of Connecticut, so I was a Yankees fan. And at the time, Don Mattingly was my favorite player. So there were a lot of wiffle ball games with me in the backyard trying to hit left-handed and mimic his stance. Unfortunately, I wasn't that successful with it as my playing career petered out pretty quickly. But there were a lot of things I respected about Don Mattingly and still do to this day, not only with his ability to perform as a player, but how much he cared about the game and what type of teammate he is.
And let me ask you this, hitting left-handed, did you curve the feet in a little bit like Mattingly, like he did back in the day in the 80s?
Exactly.
You did?
That was it. I tried to. So,
yeah,
there were a few days where I actually painted on a mustache, too, just to try to get the full feel for
That's
it.
That's right. Very good.
So.
Very good. All right, I have another question here for you. We're going to lighten the mood here because I want to get your mind off the pressure of today. So this is from Ryan.
Okay.
This is from Ryan. If you were not in baseball, what would you be doing?
That is a great question. I'm not sure exactly what I'd be doing. I'm passionate about a lot of things. I love to cook, so maybe I'd be a professional chef somewhere.
Oh, very good. Another one, Liz. About a month ago, you took a flight with the Blue Angels. What was that like?
That was probably the coolest thing I've done in my life to date. It was a surreal experience. I've had the fortune of watching the Blue Angels perform a number of air shows. They always fly over the ballpark every other September. So I've had the vantage point of seeing them from the ground up, and always it was on my bucket list to be able to fly with them. And to have that opportunity to do it this year was a dream come true. And it was an exhilarating ride. It was about an hour long, and we did all sorts of tricks and maneuvers and kind of tested my physical limits too. So it was a lot of fun and a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Yeah, I've seen it from the outside. So my follow-up to that is, are you crazy? Are you nuts? I mean, what were you thinking?
I try to push myself into places where I'm uncomfortable, and that was certainly one of those spaces in which I was not very comfortable. I was very excited to do it, but a little bit anxious. The most anxious thing about the whole thing, though, I've got to tell you, was the eject handle that was between my legs. That's what I was most anxious about, mistakenly grabbing that and then ejecting out of the plane.
Yeah, you sit on your hands. You can't do anything. You don't even want to move. Exactly. All right, another fan joining in right now. Your name and your question.
Hey, this is Andrew, and I just want to ask Chris, just want to find out, what do you think is going to be the biggest off-season challenge for you guys?
Thanks, Andrew. That's a great question. For us, we'll have a lot of time to assess that. It's obviously an inflection point for us and our team, and that we've got a host of guys that are on contracts that end after this year. So once we get through the season, we'll have to sit down and really plan forward what our team will look like, not only for next year, but for the foreseeable future. The good news for us is we still feel like we have a really talented group of players, both at the major league level and throughout our minor league system, to build really good teams moving forward. Exactly how we'll do that, we'll have to take some time this offseason to work through that.
Let me ask you, I'm going to follow up on that question. Right now, and it's cyclical, the whole thing, but your division right now, other than your team, not exactly a great time for them. So do you see this as an extension of a window for the Indians?
Well, I think first within the division, we think those teams are building towards something. And as we've seen firsthand, teams can make big jumps from one year to the next. So we don't take anything for granted. And we know that those teams have bright futures in front of them. And now we have to assess how do we continue to compete with them and try to win the division as many years as possible. But the thing we try to focus on is what's the best way for us to build our teams moving forward and what's the best thing for our franchise.
All right, let's end on a fun one here from Dave. What's your favorite ballpark to visit when you leave Cleveland?
Oh, there are so many of them. I'm probably partial to Safeco Field in Seattle. I think it's a beautiful setting with the mountains in the backdrop, and I love the way the park's configured. So there's a host of parks that I like, but that one immediately jumps out to me.
All right, we're going to let you go because you got things to do. I mean, just a little game in the ALDS, Game 3.
Right.
Chris, thank you for taking time. Good luck the rest of the way, and that's going to do it for this edition of the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. I'm Matt Yaloff. We'll see you next time.